The grand mansion stood in silence, the only sound the steady tick of a lonely grandfather clock. Crystal chandeliers glimmered above, their brilliance cold and unwelcoming, as if mocking the trembling maid beneath them. In Clara's hand rested a diamond-studded wedding ring, worth more than she could ever dream. But it wasn't hers. It belonged to Alexander Hawthorne, the master of the house, a man of limitless fortune, unshakable pride, and a reputation that stretched across the city. Clara, just a maid with roughened hands and a worn uniform, had no claim to such a treasure. Yet fate can be cruel. At the very moment she held it, Alexander himself entered the room. His eyes fell on her, on the fragile maid clutching his most personal possession. The air froze. The mansion seemed to hold its breath. She expected fury, to be cast out in disgrace. But instead of thunder there was silence. Alexander simply looked at her as though searching her soul. Clara's story was one of hardship. At only 23, she had carried burdens most could not imagine. After losing her father in a factory accident, she abandoned her education to provide for her sick mother and younger siblings. Cleaning, scrubbing, enduring insults, this became her life. So when she was hired to work in Alexander's estate, she swallowed her pride. It was survival. Alexander Hawthorne. Newspapers painted him as a self-made billionaire, polished, powerful, and engaged to a senator's daughter. His world was perfect on paper, but his home, despite its beauty, was hollow. His staff feared him. His gardens bloomed without warmth. The ring had slipped into Clara's hands by chance. While dusting, she noticed the safe slightly open. The diamond's glow caught her eye, not with greed, but with longing. For a single fragile moment, she allowed herself to imagine what it felt like to hold something beautiful, to believe in a life beyond her struggles. And then, he appeared. The next morning, summoned to his study, Clara confessed through trembling words. She admitted she had touched the ring only to feel hope, just once. No lies, no excuses. Just honesty from a weary heart. Her confession stirred something in Alexander. His fiancée treasured the ring as a display of status, but Clara had seen it as a symbol of dreams. That difference unsettled him. He couldn't forget her eyes, or the reverence with which she had held it. Days turned into weeks. His engagement crumbled in scandal, and the world mocked his broken pride. Yet in those shadows, Clara remained unchanged, kind, humble, quietly present. When she placed a cup of tea before him one evening without judgment, without pity, Alexander saw something rare. Someone who saw him not as a billionaire, but as a man. That moment lingered. Slowly the mansion changed. Wages became fairer, hours shorter, families cared for. And Alexander began noticing Clara more deeply. Not because she sought his attention, but because she didn't. Her honesty, her quiet strength, became more precious than jewels. One afternoon, standing in the very room where it all began, Alexander held the ring again. But it no longer represented power or betrayal. It reminded him of Clara, of her truth. Of the day she unknowingly opened his eyes. He found her in the garden, tending roses, her hands stained with earth. Holding out the ring, he told her softly that its value was never in the diamond, but in the heart that could see beauty without owning it. He admitted her honesty had changed him forever. He didn't ask for her hand that day. He didn't make promises. But from that moment on, the mansion no longer belonged to pride. It belonged to kindness. Clara's life didn't transform overnight. She still worked, still sacrificed, still carried her family's burdens, but she was no longer invisible. She had earned something far greater than wealth, respect, dignity, and perhaps even love. And so, the maid who once trembled with a millionaire's ring in her hands would one day hold something priceless, his trust and his heart. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to HQ Infinite Stories for more journeys of kindness and hope. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what do you believe holds the most value? Wealth, beauty, or honesty? Because sometimes, the smallest act of truth can change even the grandest mansion.